Hey guys, so on our way to Bergen, we decided to stop in this little beautiful hotel called Husum. It is right by city of Borgund, where the Borgund Stave Church is located, and it's sort of midway between Oslo and Bergen. And boy, was that a good idea. So I'll show you it in a second, but I just want to tell you a little bit about this place. So the Hotel of Husum was built in the mid-19th century. It was originally a station because right by here, and we'll see it in a second, is where the old King's Road would pass. That's what King would take to go from Oslo to Bergen and the other cities around here through the mountains. It was only one major road. It was horse and carriage. Now that road is closed. It is used for hiking purposes. But before that, this hotel here was sort of a station to stop overnight. So actually, over the years, at least 2 kings have stopped here for a night, as well as many famous painters and musicians. So let me show you the hotel and tell you a little bit more about it. Here it is. Look at that beautiful glowing white hotel. This is Hotel Husum. This building itself is almost 200 years old. But what is interesting is that the family that owns this place right now is the same family that owned these lands around me for 400 years. Now imagine that. They first farmed here, then they built a station for people to stop by at the King's Road, and they still own it today. It's a family business that is proud of its history. Not only is this hotel beautiful, but it also has within itself many mysteries, one of which I want to tell you about today. So there is a tale here that once a king was passing by a little bit further down the road, about 40 minutes to Bergen from here, and suddenly his horse stopped and he couldn't get it to move, and so he started trying to make it go, but it would not budge. And the tale goes that at the time there were 2 mountain trolls standing on the mountain ridge there above him, and they saw him and they started laughing at his futile tries to move the horse. They laughed and they laughed and they laughed. And eventually the king got so angry, he took his staff and he smashed it on the rock next to him. And in that moment, the 2 trolls turned to stone. And that's where they stood for 300 years. And we'll see those trolls. One of them, unfortunately, fell down in the last century, but one still stands in its original form. But what's cool about that is that the stone that he stumped his staff on said to miraculously have appeared here at the hotel. I asked the owners. They have no idea how the stone got here. All they do know is that this stone does not belong to this area. So it's definitely not native to here, and how it got here, nobody knows, but the tale goes that this is a stone from the fairy tale. So let's go check it out, and I'll show you a little bit inside the hotel so you can just see how beautiful it is. Okay, so we're walking up these ancient stairs. Who knows how many centuries old they are. But here, right as you walk up, and if you turn right, you'll see this stone. And this is very unique. Like, look at this. Just pure mountain stone. But here, you have this weird indent. It's round and it's sort of perfectly shaped. Look at the whole indent in this rock. Who knows what would have made it, but the story goes that this is exactly where he smashed his staff, and this left a mark, and this turned the trolls into stone. Now if we go inside, I'll show you a little bit around. Let's see. Look at that. Look how beautiful this place is. Let's see if this is open.
There's also an airfield on the island we're going to. I don't know, there's a picture of a. I'll be up with an eye on usually, so I'll try to find it. But I guess there was a German airfield on it.
Let's check in here. And up here, you have the rooms. It's a very cozy place. It's not huge. There's only maybe 10 or 15 rooms in this house, but boy, is it worth it. Well, unfortunately, they're already cleaning our room, so I couldn't show you upstairs, but I just wanted to show you. Look, if you stay here, this is going to be the backdrop that you wake up to. Look at this beautiful little mountain ridge. And on the other side, you have the big boys. You have the big mountains, and I'll show you more as we go along the way. But one last thing I wanted to show you here. This blew my mind. So the owner of the hotel has pointed out that the buildings behind me have been around here since the beginning of this farm. They are from 16th century. Now imagine that. These things, these wooden things, have been built here more than 400 years ago. Look at that. These are sort of the style of the housing that the people at the time lived. Made out of wood, you know, sturdy. The specific buildings were used for food storage. As you can see, they're high off the ground, so the mice and the rats could not get to the food. So these are food storages, and I believe you can Airbnb them as well. But just a little piece of history from Norway just shows you how Norway is full of surprises like this. You can just stop in a little stop along the way and find hidden treasures like these houses with roof made out of moss and grass. Just you can explore, and people are so nice, so you can always stop by and ask, and they'll love to tell you their stories. Sometimes they might not want to be on the camera, but they will be more than happy to tell you the history of places like these. So anyway, if you're driving from Oslo to Bergen, I would highly suggest you stop at this beautiful ancient hotel. And I forgot to mention, the food is fantastic. So get the dinner, get the breakfast. You will not regret. The chef is a genius. But here you go. The Hosum Hotel near Borgund. Alright, so we are at Windhella, which is a local area through which a King Road goes through. And it's a very hilly area. It's been reconstructed multiple times, but basically around the end of 19th century, that's when this road was finished, and it was used until the more modern road was done right here. This one was done for cars. The one that we're gonna walk was done primarily for horse carriages. There you go, Kongevegen. So we are about to travel the road that was built for the King of Norway centuries ago. All right, so this part of King's Road that we're climbing on right now is one of the most picturesque parts. It is one of the most hilly ones, and it goes through a beautiful mountainous valley. It takes about an hour to get to the Stave Church from here and back. So it should be a good hike, although I do have to say it's quite steep. Okay, so there we go. Our ascend to the Borgund Stave Church via King's Road. Apparently this road has a home to numerous local folklore tales about the adventures that King had traveling here. So let's go check it out. Well, you can see just how steep this road is. Just in about 3 minutes, we made it all the way up here from the road down there. As we were walking up, we can see some really cool places. So for example, here's a little landmark. It's called Lusahaug. And what the plaque says is that when the workers who built this whole thing by hand, by the way, in the end of 18th century, were building this magnificent road. You see all the stones up there. We'll see more of it. But as they were building it, they would camp out here for the night. And this right here behind me was one of the places where they would stay. And hills like that were got a nickname of lice hills because, of course, the workers were dirty, they were cramped, and the lice spread really, really quickly around here. So there we go. We are on one of the lice hills on the King's Road. Here we are. Look at that. Can you imagine all these rocks being hauled here by hand? God, I can't imagine. And here we are gonna scale the famous zigzag that you see in the photos all the time. We're almost at the top. I would just like you to look at the rocks behind me. Look at this. This is not natural. This is a man-built rock formation. They have piled them one on top of the other to hold the upper part of the road right there. And just can you imagine hauling these rocks up this hill? Like, I mean, just for your perspective, look how high we were up. So these guys literally hauled all these rocks up here, put them one on top of the other, build this stone wall, rock wall. Man, what heroes. And on the other side, you can still see the ancient rocks that the builders placed here. So, you know, you would have some kind of protection if you were to fall. I'm pretty sure that these are, you know, been placed here at the time of the erection of this road. So quite neat. So is this. I'm pretty sure these are originals as well. Here we are, almost all the way up, looking down on the valley there where the main highway goes. And here's a famous serpentine going up the mountain, and look at this magnificent view. Wow, breathtaking. Norway is truly, truly beautiful. Okay, let's go up. Hey, so this is really cool. So as you're kind of climbing up, you can see the remnants of the old road. So this one was built in 1793. As you can see, it's not too sophisticated. It's literally just cut out from the mountain above us. It's the same mountain, just cut out a little bit so the horses can climb up. And that's what the king originally used. But 40 years later, a new project was in place. And that's where they built a road right next to it. And this one is, of course, well paved. You can see how it serpentines down. So this is the 1840 road. And this is the 1790 road. As you can see, you can tell the difference. So what you can see here is the old road, but from the top. My buddies there are scaling it down. So you would have a cart going down. Here was a horse with a king in it. You can imagine the adrenaline that would be pumping through King's veins as he was speeding down this very, very steep, rocky road. So I think that's why 40 years later, King said, you know what, that's enough of that. Let's just build a decent road. And that's when they built this one, 40 years later after this one. And along the way here, you can see these benches. But what's really cool, look at this. On the benches, you have a crown and a carriage, symbolizing that, you know, carriages like these would be making their way up every now and then, traveling from town to town, carrying a king or a queen of Norway. Check out this cool thing that we found along the way. So right behind me, there's a little, not a cave, but just a little sort of gore in the mountain. And this is where it said a blacksmith would base himself to create the tools and the metal railing for some of this road. So right here, underneath me is a rock. It's a little tavern here, and it's nice, sort of hidden from the rain, so you can have a fire here and get the temperature just right without being rained on, which does happen quite a lot in Norway. So yeah, look at this. Look at this little cool blacksmith shop in the middle of the mountains. And here you guys go, the famous serpentine road called King's Road. As you go downhill, you can see it going left and right, and this is of course done to make it a little less steep, but it looks just beautiful. It's one hell of a hike to get up here, but once you go down, it's nice and pleasant, and the views are fantastic. Okay guys, so we made it to the top, and now we're beginning our descent to Borgund, where the Stave Church that we're after is located. It's going to be a really cool visit. I'm excited to show you it. I've never seen it before, and I have to say, this trail is so worth it. I mean, you can drive up to the church. It's right on the highway, so that's not the point. The point is, like, if you can walk through this little hike, it takes about half an hour. It's a little steep to get up, but quite nice to get down. You'll enjoy it so much more. You'll see so much nature, and it'll build up the moment to when you actually see the church in front of you, where it unveils in front of you behind the last corner of this hike. There we are. The Stave Church should be just down there where we were walking, but look at these breathtaking views. I heard some people walk by me and they had some sort of thematic Viking music with them, and it's kind of cool. They were having like a little spiritual moment. It was quite neat. You know, one thing that Norway reminds me of is my hometown, Calgary, Alberta, Canada. It's very similar. You get sort of similar vegetation, kind of mountains, rolling hills, but in the same time, it's quite different because Norway is much more humid. It's surrounded by water. We're in central Norway right now, so it's a little less humid, but as you get closer to the shore, it becomes more humid there, and you see more of the leaf trees. You know, in Western Canada, it'd be sort of old pines mostly. Here you see, you know, behind me, birch and other leaf trees, and it makes it really nice to walk, I think, because every angle you get, behind every corner, you get such a complex piece of nature. You know, you never quite know what you're gonna see. Is it gonna be a little spruce tree, little birch, little bush, little berry bush? You never know. So it makes it really interesting to adventure. You never get bored. I mean, not like you would ever get bored of nature, but you know what I mean? It just makes it so much more diverse, and I really quite enjoy it. Look at this. As you walk, you see these old houses, and it's just beautiful how integrated it is into nature. The roof is covered with moss, on which grass grows and flowers blossom. And it's almost like it's not even there. And people live there. You know, this is a living house. So everything is in such a fine balance here. Everything so nicely unified. It's a beautiful place. You truly feel like you took a step back in time, and feels very peaceful and open and just so inviting to explore. Man, I love these little houses along the way. Look at this. It seems like out of some kind of fairy tale. It's a little house, God knows when it was built. It looks like definitely a few centuries ago, and look at it. It's something like you know, in Russian tales, there's a tale of Baba Yaga that lives in a hut just like this, and she sort of preys on young kids in the forest and eats them up, and she lives on something like this. And you know, obviously there's other fairy tales from Norway about trolls and other creatures living, protecting and guarding the forest. And you know, perhaps this is one of the buildings that would be described in a tale of such sort. And you know, this little mysterious place in the forest where some mystical creature lurks and awaits its visitors. You know, it's all along the way here. You can stumble upon places like this quite often. But what it probably is of course a food storage, as we seen in the video before. They would put them up from the ground so the mice wouldn't get to it. But you know, but what it really is, I'll leave up to your imagination. Look how cool this is. As we're walking, you can see these little wild berry bushes. I think this is wild raspberry. Although, you know, rule of thumb is never eat something that you're never quite sure of. So I'm not gonna try it, but it definitely looks edible and delicious. But it's like this everywhere you go. You know, this is you can find berries to pick at if you know what you're looking for, and maybe some grass for your tea or something like that. Herbs for your tea. It's a very bountiful land. And here's just a little cool part of the forest that I wanted to show you. You know, whenever I look at little forest areas like this, you know, it just reminds me of all these mysterious fairy tales that you hear in Germanic literature and Scandinavian literature about people encountering all sorts of magical deities and characters in these forests, talking to them, interacting, maybe having some conflict, solving some problems. But you know, they'll be sort of lurking there in a little forest waiting for you. And it just makes it it's just so cool to walk here and to imagine yourself maybe being a part of such a fairy tale. It looks like one, and if you know a little bit of mythology behind the place, it sort of puts you in that mindset that, you know, this is where, say, things would happen. All right, we came down the hill, and just 8 more minutes. You sort of have to walk by the highway right here, but I'm not complaining. Look at this. Gosh, it really makes you want to live here. It truly does. The weather is perfect, at least right now. It's not raining. It's not too cold. It's not too warm. Right now is the beginning of end of August, so it's very nice. Everything's so green, you know. It's just beautiful to look at. You know, you really have to give the Norwegian people a lot of credit, because as you walk through this, you know, no matter how remote of a village or town you might be passing through, everything looks so neat, like so neat and clean and organized. You know, the fields are plowed, and the yards, or grass on the yards is cut. You know, all the houses are nicely painted and well taken care of. It's just such a hard-working, sincere and welcoming people. I'm really taken back by the hospitality that I've experienced here on this journey. And yeah, I just wanted to do a little shout out to the Norwegians. Thank you very much. You guys are pretty awesome. As we're walking here, we just came along a little cluster of shrooms. It's not quite a circle, but there's a bunch of tales telling how if you see a circle of shrooms, that's where the fairies come, and you can sort of see them sometimes. And you know, and I think partially that fairy tale is true, because you know, there's such things as sort of, they call them magic mushrooms, the hallucinogenic mushrooms, and I think that's where people maybe find mushrooms and maybe eat them, and you know, maybe hallucinate and maybe do see some fairies. So maybe there's some truth to tales like that. So you know, it's always like that. When you read the tales, you shouldn't just discard them because it's something for children. Tales are actually one of the oldest histories of ancient religions, ancient rituals. tales always have a little bit of truth to themselves. And, you know, people sort of fantasize around the story and make it more magical than it was, but the framework is usually somewhat historical. So whenever you read a little tale, take a second and think, what part of that might have been true? What pushed people to say these things? Were there a lesson to be learned from it? Or perhaps was there a religious ritual or religious deity that was associated with this tale? So never discard a good tale. And here's some of our friends, or not. Hey, sheep. Come here. Sheepy. Sheep, 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 sheep. Come on. Meow. Meow. No. Okay, they don't like us much. All right, so we're finally here. Look at that. That is the Borgund Stave Church in the distance. But first, before we go there, we're gonna visit the museum right next to it that will tell us a little bit of a history about it, and we'll probably take a tour, which is highly suggested, because they say without this tour you won't see the full beauty of the church. So we'll first learn some things, and then we'll go and see the real thing with you in a minute.